Hi, and welcome back, and thanks for viewing this tutorial on streaming your jam session in Jamulus into Zoom, YouTube, Twitch, using two different programs, Reaper and OBS. A couple important notes before we start. The first is that this is a PC or Windows only tutorial. It relies on an aspect of Reaper that unfortunately isn't available to Mac users yet. There are workarounds. However, I don't have a Mac to make my own tutorial, although once I get my hands on one, I hope to do that soon. So PC users only. And the second note is that this is one of a string of tutorials that I've made, and it's going to be relying on you either having watched previous tutorials or being aware of the knowledge that's in them. So I'm not going to start from the beginning. I'm going to start where the last tutorial left off. So if I'm going to do a quick recap, and when I do that, if some of this information seems obscure or confusing, just go back and watch those other old tutorials. And speaking of those, I'm actually going to redo them because I've learned a little bit along the way about how to make a better video. The first being you can actually see me at the bottom of the screen. The second being you can hear me through both ears. Yes, I did that. So one video is apparently only left ear friendly. And then the third thing is that I finally figured out that I actually need to make my screen larger, or the size of the screen smaller, so that when windows pop up, people can actually read the text that's on them. It's been a journey. So here's a recap of where we were last time. We were using the program Reaper in order to take our sound, move it into Jamulus, and then take Jamulus's sound and move it back into Reaper. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, in that video, it allowed us to record our Jamulus session live, so that we had a nice record of the music that we made. And now we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to take that sound and we're going to shoot it out into another program, and then get it into Zoom, YouTube, Twitch, wherever. This video will specifically show you how to do it in Zoom. And the reason being is that let's say that you have a choir of 25 singers, and it just so happens that 3 of them are either having connection issues, or they don't have the software downloaded yet, or they just need the night off from singing. They can still be a part of the rehearsal by joining Zoom, and they'll be able to hear everything that's going on in Jamulus. So they'll be able to sing along, but they obviously won't be heard, but it will still be a much better experience than having everyone muted and no one hearing each other. And so the way that we did this was we used a program, or a plugin through Reaper called Rearoute, R-E-A, root. And inside of Jamulus, I'm connected to my own server here. Inside the settings, that's what we use as our device, this Rearoute. It is its own ASIO, so it is controlling audio, and we've got 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And then the way that I know that this is working is because I am sending my audio, there it is right there, into Jamulus. There it is right there. And I can also see it on the Jamulus stage or mixer as well too. And if I turn up my slider just a little bit at the moment, although it causes me to have to hear myself, I can then see that everybody, or the rest of Jamulus, is working as well too, because this meter starts to go up as well. Because I don't want to hear myself for this entire tutorial, I'm going to put that back down, and I'm also going to minimize this. And honestly, we're not going to be dealing with Jamulus for the most part. We're going to start with Reaper and then move into OBS. Now, here's where I want to start. I want to start by doing a couple of downloads of some programs that we are going to need. And the first thing we are going to do is we're going to go to download something called Reastream, again with the REA in front of it. And that will take us to, if we search Reastream for Reaper, will take us to Replugs. And that is a whole suite of FX that we can use that go along with Reaper that aren't there natively. Um, I'm not going to go through most of these today. However, we are going to talk about Reastream. There it is right there. And as the name implies, it allows you to take the audio from Reaper and stream it into another program. Let's scroll back up to the very top and remind you that if you just scroll down a little bit, you will see the download option for 64 or 32-bit. And I'm not going to go through the whole downloading process. I am assuming that once you click download, it's going to show up in your window at the bottom. You are going to click on the box, and the box will then make you accept things and next things, and that you've got that in place. And then the next program that we are going to download is called OBS, Open Broadcaster Software. This is familiar to anyone who has streamed, or most people who have streamed. It's a free program. It's relatively easy to use, and so it checks both of those boxes. And so if you search OBS, the first thing that pops up is OBS. You click on that, and again, take care of that installation process on your own. The last thing that we need to search for is a product that is going to cost just a little bit of money. Again, my two boxes are easy to use and free, and this was the one product that I just couldn't find an easy and free replacement for. It's just it has a slight cost to it. And it's important to me to make sure that anything that I suggest using is going to be accessible. And so I try not to recommend expensive programs or programs that are unnecessary. I feel like these are a good purchase. And so if you search virtual audio cables, what comes up is VB Audio Virtual Apps, and that is what we want to choose. And when we select that, we then need to scroll down quite a bit, and we get to colorful boxes. That's what you want to aim for. And we have this VB cables A and B and C and D. And we actually want all four of them. And so if you click on the download box, you are going to be sent to a page where you can donate what you choose. As little as €5 will get you A and B, and then another 5 will get you C and D. There might be an option to do less, although I'm not sure. Again, they're well worth it, but also if you want to search for similar options that are free, I'm going to continue to mention virtual cables, so just plug that in to wherever, and also make sure to let me know what you found and how you had it work. All right, so we've got everything downloaded and we've got Reaper set up, and so let's get to work and let's make some of this happen. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go back into Reaper. I have my 2 tracks, one for me and one for everyone. Now, I've already done this process to me because I am actually using OBS to record what we are doing right now, or what you're seeing. And so I'm going to do this for everybody, and then just assume that you can do the same process for your track as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the FX section. Now notice on the track you have a little FX box right here, and again, because I've done one for myself already, you can see that that FX box is green when there is something in it and something being used at the time. If I click on FX, what comes up is a whole bunch of plugins that we can use. Now, the first time that you use it, you are going to go to all plugins and then look for VST. And when you do, it's then in alphabetical order and they all start with re. And so you're going to look for Restream down there and you're going to click on it and add it. Now, for future uses of this, I really love going to the recently used tab, and that allows you, it lessens the list by plenty, and gives you the ones that you've used before for easy access. So I'm going to click on Restream here. And once I do, it brings up its own separate box that we need to do just a few things with. The first thing is we need to identify this sound, especially if we're going to have multiple sounds being streamed. We want to make sure that we're calling up the right one when we do. You can use pretty much any identifier or any name in order to call this. I'm just using everybody in order to keep things simple and streamlined for now, but call it whatever. And we're going to send the audio, and we need to send it locally, a local broadcast. Two audio channels is set up there by default, and that is totally fine. And once we've done that, we're going to click add. Now, I want to show you quickly that because I have my slider down here in Jamulus and that there is no sound going into the Reaper portion, you can't really see that it's working or that it's picking up audio. However, if I raise my slider just a little bit so that I can hear myself again, then we start to see sound come in not only on the meter here on the original page, but then also in the Restream as well too. And that's going to be important to keep in mind. The other thing that I want to mention, and before I do, I'm going to stop forcing myself to hear myself again, is that if you decide that you want to add other FX, I'm not going to go into the other FX right now, but let's take me so that you can hear me. Here I've got my Restream going and you can see my stream moving along. If I wanted to add an FX in, and let's say that I wanted to add in a little bit of reverb. Right now the reverb is going, but you can't hear it because Restream is above the reverb. These FX get added, it's a priority list. And so you need to make sure that Restream is the very bottom one, or at least it's at the bottom of the FX that you want to be streamed out. So to give you an example of that, if I pull Restream down to the bottom of the list, all of a sudden my voice has a bit of reverb in it. It's not what we want for this right now, and so I'm going to move it back up to the top, and then you don't hear it again. So again, make sure that Restream is below whatever other FX you would want to add to this audio that you're sending out. So we've got our Restream set up here in Reaper, and we are ready to go into OBS. So I'm going to close this out. I am going to minimize this, and we're going to go into OBS. Now you can see right away, you can see me seeing me, and in a second, unfortunately, you're also going to see the OBS screen as well too, and it's going to do one of those things where it continuously sees itself, so it's going to get smaller and smaller. But until it does that, you can see right here on this audio mixer that here is me. I know that what I've set up in Reaper is working because I can see my audio moving now. And we are also going to add the sound for everybody. So if I click add, and then I click audio input capture, this is a long list that unfortunately just got cut off by the screen. Luckily, audio input capture is right up at the top because that is what we want. And so we're going to create a new audio input, and for simplicity's sake, we are going to call it everybody. Now, once we name it, it's going to ask us what device we want to use. And this is where those virtual audio cables come in handy. And this is why we need to assign it some sort of audio device. But we want to make sure that it's an audio device that we're not using at the time. And so we have to assign it sort of a dummy audio device that we are not using. And so I am going to call this audio cable C. And I'm going to click OK. Now, why did I choose C? I chose C because the me that I've already created is already using audio cable B, and we're going to use A in just a minute. Now, when I take a look at everybody, I am still not seeing anything. And that is because I need to go back in and right-click everybody and add a filter. And this is where the magic happens. I don't know why that came into my head, and I just decided I was going to say it. We're going to click plus to add, and we are going to, at the bottom of this list, let me make this window smaller. At the bottom of this list is VST plugin. Remember, we saw that VST within Reaper. If we click on that, we can name this whatever or name it nothing. And then we are going to get to select a plugin. And this is where we want to choose Reastream. And if we choose Reastream and then open the interface, what comes up is a box that looks a lot like the box that we just saw in Reaper, with an unusual little white border around the outside. And we want to set it to receive audio. And remember that we named our audio and we called it everybody. And as soon as we name that, we should receive. Oh, right, of course. We should receive our audio, and if there's no audio coming in, this meter is not going to move. So again, I'm going to make myself hear myself so that I can then see that this is working. Good. Quiet. There we go. So I've got everybody set up and it's setting to receive audio. I leave that, I close that. And now I've got everybody and me. And you can also, of course, within this program here, you can make louder or softer the volume that you're hearing to make sure that it's balanced. Now we are almost done. We've got these two audio streams now coming into OBS, but now we need to get it out into Zoom. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to right-click on this audio mixer panel, and we're going to go to Advanced Audio Properties. A box like this comes up, and it gives us all of our different active options. One thing that I want to show you real quick, and it's going to make it easier for us to do the rest of this, is for the ones that you're not using desktop audio, you can tell it to hide, and for mic/aux, you can tell that to hide as well too. And then let's go back into Advanced Properties, and you can see that actually that didn't change anything at all, but when you go back to that other screen, it will look at least a little bit simpler. So let's target the two that we want to look at, everybody and me. Now, everybody says monitor off, and me says monitor and output. And having these both say monitor and output will allow us to get our sound into Zoom. And I'm going to show you why. But just remember that that's the only thing that you need to do here. Under audio monitoring, you want to do monitor and output. Once you've done that, you can close this tab out. And then we need to do one last thing. We need to go into settings, which can either be found on the control panel here or under files, settings. And once we open up settings, we are going to go down to audio and we're going to go down to advanced. And this is where we see the monitoring device. And this is where we see that we have cable A input selected. That's that virtual audio cable. So we are using cable A to send it into Zoom, and we're using B and C as dummy audio devices in order to get the filter and the stream added to it. Okay, so virtual audio cable A is what we want. We're going to click OK. And then we're going to go into Zoom. Hi, Bernie. I decided to mute my video. I did a quick look of what this video would look like if it was a really large me and a small me, and I decided not to do that. And so here I am in Zoom, and I'm going to go down to the audio settings right here. It's right next to the microphone icon at the bottom, and I go into audio settings. Now there's a reason that I want to go here, although you can obviously very quickly decide that you want to do a different audio cable right here within this short menu. But I'm going to go into audio settings because once I do, and I select cable A output, I can look to see whether I'm still getting a signal coming through. And that is a good way to let you know that it's working. And as we can see, it is. And if you want to test to make sure, of course, just click test mic, say something friendly, because then you're going to hear it yourself afterwards. And we know that this is working. Once that happens, if we unmute our microphone, we can also see that it's working because our microphone is turning green. And though we can't hear ourselves back in Zoom, I can assure you that whatever is happening in Jamulus right now is going into Reaper. It's being restreamed into OBS using the virtual cables, and then it's being monitored or sent into Zoom via that virtual cable A. And now you might say, well, I don't plan to do this on Zoom. And that is when you can go back into OBS and there are options to stream. So you can do this same thing on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you want. But again, for our process here, Zoom is what we're aiming for. Now, also notice that I didn't bother with this panel up here. I wanted to keep things simple enough. Video is probably a subject of another tutorial. All we're worried about is the audio right now. We are using OBS for only its audio purposes. Okay, so that will allow you to take what is going on in Jamulus, your rehearsal, or a performance, and take that audio and put it into Zoom or wherever you want, so that other choir members or an audience can be hearing the music that you're making and making together in real time remotely. Thank you so much for watching. This was a little bit of a longer tutorial, but I hope that A, I didn't throw too much information at you, and B, that I made it as clear as possible, because that is always my goal. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you again soon.